Most people, when they hear the word missionary, right away there's a mental image that kind of just lodges itself in the mind, and that's the image of the guy. You know, we learned about this in grade school, the great missionaries who got on the boats, left Europe, went someplace where the culture was different, the language was different, and people hadn't heard about Jesus. They left home and never returned again. I'm not that guy. The church has two kinds of missionaries. The first and most common example of a missionary is exactly that one I just described, that one we grew up learning about. The one that the church sends out into the world to announce the saving truth to those who haven't heard it yet. But then there's a second kind of missionary. This one comes later on when the church takes a look at itself and says, we need missionaries to send to those who already have heard the saving message, to remind them of its fullness, and to reawaken it. Because human nature being what it is, we forget, we grow tired, we get complacent. And the group of priests founded by St. Louis de Montfort are missionaries in that second sense of the word. We're missionaries sent by the church to the church, to be at the service not of the first promotion of the gospel, but of the reawakening of the gospel where it has already begun to live. And in doing that, and Father de Montfort, who lived 300 years ago in France, dedicated his life to that. He had a very short life. He died at 44 years old. He was ordained at 27, only 16 years of work. In those 16 years, almost all of it was spent on the road, traveling on foot from town to town in France to preach. And when he'd arrive at a community, he'd stay there for quite a while and shake it up from top to bottom. And the engine of this relentless missionary energy and the content of his preaching had a very peculiar focal point to it, and it was this. The secret to a fully renewed Christian life has a name, and her name is Mary. And when we hear that for the first time, that can give us pause. And how does that work exactly? And Father de Montfort discovered this secret very, very young, and he did it reflecting on the fact that he really was feeling in his heart called to live the gospel fully, but he wasn't sure where to start. And he was feeling called to take his faith, or actually to let his faith claim him, and to animate and become a dynamic reality in his life, and he wasn't sure. How do we do that? None of his friends knew. His instructors in the school, good as they were, didn't seem to know either. And he sat down and he began reading the lives of the saints. He said, you know, on the one hand, the secret to growth in holiness is pretty obvious. Everybody sees it. You know, we have it right in the example of the saints. Continual prayer. He said, oh. Heroic generosity. He looked at himself and said, oh. Being willing to spill your blood for the gospel. He stopped again. And he looked at these examples of this relentless self-sacrificing, this ardent self-denial, this vigorous, creative boldness in the face of the gospel, and he said what I just said a couple minutes ago, I am so not that guy. What about me? What about the person who's not a hero? What about the person who's not a giant? What about me? He said, I can't do that. My mind wanders too much. I can't stay focused that long. I get so distracted. I have so many competing claims on my time, and I don't even know where to begin to sort them out. And it's not that they're bad ones, they're good ones, but I have a hard time figuring out which is the best one. I'm not that wise. And boldness, well, I'd like to be bolder, but I'm afraid of making a mistake and getting it wrong. And I do worry sometimes about what other people think. And I'm also not sure which way to go. What about me? And he realized as he was asking those questions that there was a common problem in everything he was saying. And it was a pronoun. I. Me. I can't do that by myself. I can't do that on my own. I am not that wise. I am not that bold. I am not that constant. I am not that generous. And it was in prayer one day, kneeling down, that he just realized, that's my problem. Everything is coming back down to me. And the reality is, I am never going to be that guy, as long as it's just me. Spiritual growth is not the kind of thing we can do on our own. We need help. We need help. Father Moffat began right there, knowing I feel called. I do feel that. I feel called by the Lord to follow him. But every time I try to do it on my own, I trip over my own feet and down I go. So unless he helped me to follow him, unless the Lord help me, unless he give me his grace, I'm not going to get very far. So the real question is, where and how do I discover the grace that I need to live the full life that I know the Lord calls me to live? The secret has a name, and her name is Mary. But why? Why would Mary be the secret? I'm going to answer that by means of a simple question. Is there anybody in this room who is not a Christian? Okay, this is a good start. Would anybody care to tell me what a Christian is? Now we're not so sure.
One who believes in Jesus.
One who believes in Jesus. Hold out for a better answer. One. Christian. What's a Christian?
Follower of Jesus.
Father, hold out for a better answer. Or better, hold out for a better deal. Okay? Hold out for a better deal.
Jesus is the way to salvation.
Okay? Hold out for a better deal than that even.
It's not.
I didn't say that.
He said
One who's been baptized.
Not a bad start. What's special about being baptized?
Gives you grace.
You're close. You're close. You're on the doorstep of the better deal. Okay, now before you guys go out of here and say the crazy priest who came in said you don't have to follow Jesus, Jesus isn't the way. What I mean is this, those are good answers, but they fall short of being the full answer. They fall short of being the full answer. And this was what St. Louis de Montfort discovered. He said, I settle for second, third, or fourth best in being a Christian. And that leaves me with a second, third, fourth, fifth, or even sixth best ability to live my faith. If I don't know who I really am, I never really will live the life I've been given and called. A Christian is more than a follower of Jesus. A Christian is more than someone who believes in Jesus. A Christian is more than someone who has found in Jesus the way. Because a Christian, by baptism, is a person who shares the life of Jesus Christ. That's a lot more than just following, isn't it? That's a lot more than just believing, isn't it? We have to believe, and we do have to follow, and Jesus is the way. But the important thing to recognize is who I really am by virtue of my baptism is I am a person who's been given a share in the life of Jesus Christ. St. Louis de Montfort said, the biggest reason we are lukewarm and mediocre in living our faith isn't because we're great sinners. Because the simple truth is, if we're honest with ourselves, we're pretty lukewarm and mediocre even at that. You know, we're sinners, but we're not great sinners. We're good, but we're not great. We're average and